Good evening and welcome to this edition of The Positive Vibe. It is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. This is episode number 2, and we welcome you to the show tonight. But we are going to preempt most of this program for the articles that we had swapped out for. I'm your host, Jason DeCanio. We have some very sad news to bring to you, and we're going to look at the life of a man who only practiced peace and positive things in his life. He was an advocate for peace. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk, who passed away today at the age of 31, a father, a son, uncle, and a good friend, and a husband to a wife and 2 beautiful children. Lost his life today to some coward who pulled the trigger, all because of the fact that he didn't like the way Charlie Kirk practiced his message of peace and truth. We're going to look at Charlie Kirk and his life. We're going to take a commentary from some 2 years ago that somebody wrote about him. But we're going to go ahead and take this whole episode of an hour and a half to talk about Charlie Kirk and what he stood for, which was for peace. And even though he was a conservative and people didn't like him, there were those who supported his message. The bottom line is this, folks. Whether you loved him or you hated him, if you're celebrating his death today with happiness, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to know who you are. And I don't care if you think this is a happy time to be celebrating. A man just lost his life to somebody who thought that what he had to say was so offensive that it had to come down to violence and resourcefulness and stupidity. And this, again, is what I'm talking about, folks, where we have to pretty much deal with the evil that exists in our country. And Charlie Kirk was an advocate, an author, a media personality. And all he wanted to do was spread a message and debate the issues like true American debaters should, without fear of being offended, without fear of being beaten up, or without fear of being killed. But unfortunately, he suffers at the hands of an assassin who pretty much we know now is in custody, and a full investigation is underway. So with that, when we come back, we will look at Charlie Kirk, the right-wing political advocate, author, and media personality, after these very important messages.
The mood is set. The lights are low. Where's the best place to buy a great stereo?
Corvettes has more of what you're looking for.
At Corvettes, you'll find more than just a couple of famous brand stereos. We've got lots, including the newest by Panasonic, Fisher, and Pioneer. You'll find the newest radios, too, from portables to digital clock radios, plus a whole host of tape recorders.
And look at these low Corvettes prices. What's the team? What's the score? I need a new TV set. What's the best store?
Corvettes has more of what you're looking for.
There's more in store for you at Corvettes. From Panasonic's battery portable TV to Sony's new electronic tuning, plus the latest videotape recorders.
And look at Corvette's low prices.
So for great values on the latest in home entertainment,
Corvettes has more of what you're looking for. There's more in store for you at Corvettes.
February, when we honor 3 great American leaders. Lincoln, Washington, and Crazy Eddie. Yes, Crazy Eddie has always been an American leader with the guaranteed lowest prices on anything and everything in home entertainment. Get it all now during Crazy Eddie's double-barrel Lincoln and Washington's birthday sale. Shop around, get the lowest sale prices you can find, then go to Crazy Eddie and he'll beat them. Crazy Eddie's double-barrel Lincoln and Washington's birthday sale going on now with prices even your forefathers would be proud of. Crazy Eddie, his prices are insane.
Every day's a sale day at Macy's.
It's an Election Day sales extravaganza at Mays. Ladies save on a wide selection of sensational sportswear, dresses, maternity fashions, uniforms. Save on color TVs, TV stands, complete stereo systems, and small electric appliances. Save on triple-width draw drapes, fashionable quilted bedspreads, and slipcovers. All at Mays, your family store in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Jamaica, and Glen Oaks.
Every day's a sale day at Mays.
Oh, it's you, Harry. For a minute there, you startled me.
I got some pizza.
Pizza? Harry, I don't have time to make pizza.
Did I say anything about making pizza? It's frozen. See? Gino's.
Gino's? I didn't know they made a frozen pizza.
It's right there in the freezer section. You think Gino's wouldn't make a frozen pizza that bakes in 10 minutes for people in a hurry?
Oh, Harry, be tender.
Of course it'll be tender. I'm gonna put it in the oven right now.
I hope you do, Harry. It's getting pretty cold against my back.
Charlie Kirk, American political advocate, right-wing, author, and media personality, died today at the age of 31. Co-founder of the conservative organization Turning Point USA and was its executive director. He was the chief executive officer and the counsel for the national policy of the Turning Point Endowment, also the Academy, all these organizations. And he's a Chicago raised in the suburbs of Arlington Heights and Prospect Heights. In high school, he actively engaged in politics, supporting Mark Kirk, no relation, and his U.S. Senate campaign, as well as campaigning against a price increase in his school's cafeteria. He briefly attended Harper College before dropping out to pursue political activism full-time, influenced by Tea Party member Bill Montgomery. And then in 2012, he founded TPUSA, or Turning Point USA, a conservative student organization that quickly grew with backing from donors like Foster Friess. As the CEO, he expanded the organization's influence through initiatives like the Professor Watch List and School Board Watch List, while raising millions in donations. In 2019, he founded Turning Point Action, a political advocacy arm, and later, with Pentecostal pastor Rob McCoy, found Turning Point Faith, aimed at mobilizing religious communities on conservative issues. He had his own talk show, and he was a key ally of Donald Trump, and he publicly promoted conservatism and Trump-aligned causes and COVID-19 misinformation. He spoke out against critical race theory and denied the scientific consensus on climate change. He was shot and killed today at the age of 31 while speaking at a Turning Point USA event on the campus of Utah Valley University. He was born and raised in Chicago near Prospect Heights. His mother is a mental health counselor and his father is an architect. He was a member of the Boy Scouts of America and earned the rank of Eagle Scout. And in 2010, during his junior year at Wheeling High School, he volunteered for the successful U.S. Senate campaign of Illinois Republican Mark Kirk, no relation. And in his senior year, he created a campaign to reverse the price increase for cookies at his school. He also wrote an essay for Breitbart News alleging liberal bias in high school textbooks, which led to an appearance on Fox Business. At a subsequent speaking engagement at Benedictine University's Youth Empowerment Day, he met Bill Montgomery, a retiree of more than 50 years, his senior, who was then a Tea Party-backed legislative candidate. Montgomery encouraged Kirk to engage in political activism full-time, and he subsequently founded Turning Point, a grassroots organization to rival liberal groups such as MoveOn.org at the 2012 Republican National Convention. He met Foster Friess, a prominent Republican donor, and persuaded him to finance the organization. He attended Harper College near Chicago, and he eventually withdrew before completing a degree or certificate. He is the CEO, chief fundraiser, and the public face of Turning Point from its founding to his death in 2025. He co-founded the organization in 2012 at 18 years of age. According to the New York Times, he turned the organization into a well-funded media operation backed by conservative mega donors like the Wyoming businessman Foster Friess. In 2020, ProPublica investigated the finances of Turning Point and claimed in their report that the organization made misleading financial claims and that the audits were not done by an independent auditor and that the leaders had enriched themselves while advocating for Trump. ProPublica also reported that KIRK's salary from Turning Point had increased from $27,000 to nearly $300,000, and that he had bought an $855,000 condo in Longboat Key, Florida. In 2020, Turning Point had $39.2 million in revenues, and he earned a salary of more than $325,000 from Turning Point and related organizations. 4 years ago, Turning Point announced an online academy targeted towards students in schools, poisoning our youth with anti-American ideas. Turning Point Academy was intended to cater to families seeking an American first education. Arizona education firm StrongMind initially partnered with Turning Point with plans to open the academy by the fall of 2022 and assessed its potential to generate over $40 million in gross revenue at full capacity. The partnership ended after StrongMind received backlash from its own employees and key subcontractor Freedom Learning Group, who prepared course content for the academy and also backed out of the academy after learning that it would be run by Turning Point. In May of 2019, it was reported that KIRK was preparing to launch Turning Point Action, a 501c4 entity designed to target Democrats. In July of 2019, he announced that Turning Point Action had acquired students for Trump, along with all associated media assets. He became chairman and launched a campaign to recruit 1 million students for the 2020 Trump election campaign. The unsuccessful effort led to Turning Point and the Trump campaign blaming each other for an overall decline in youth support for Trump. In December of 2022, KIRK announced the Mount Vernon Project, an initiative by Turning Point Action to remove members from the Republican National Committee who were determined by them to not be allied with grassroots conservatives and to cut off donorship to members who voted incorrectly. After Liberty University did not renew KIRK's contract with the Falkirk Center for Faith and Liberty in 2021, he founded Turning Point Faith, an organization dedicated to recruit pastors and other church leaders to be active in local and national political issues. Its activities include faith-based voter drives and educating members on Turning Point's core values. And according to Turning Point 2021 investor prospectus, the program, with a budget of $6.4 million, will address America's crumbling religious foundation by engaging thousands of pastors nationwide in order to breathe renewed civic engagement into our churches. From 2020 of October until his death, he had a daily 3-hour radio talk show called The Charlie Kirk Show on Salem Media's The Answer radio channel. According to internal data from Turning Point, KIRK's podcast was being downloaded between 500,000 and 750,000 times each day last year. KIRK was the William F. Buckley Jr. Council member of the Council for National Policy, a group that has served for decades as a hub for a nationwide network of conservative activists and the donors who support them. According to the CNP's September 2020 membership directory leaked in February of 2021. He was a spokesperson for CNP Action, the political arm of the CNP. In March of this year, President Trump appointed KIRK to the United States Air Force Academy Board of Visitors. Other notable people appointed by Trump included Senator Tommy Tuberville, Colonel Doug Nicolai, and Dina Powell. According to Forbes, KIRK was known for his repudiation of liberal college education and embrace of pro-Trump conspiracy theories. He promoted the anti-Semitic cultural Marxism conspiracy theory and described universities as islands of totalitarianism. In a 2015 speech at the Liberty Forum of Silicon Valley, Kirk stated that he had applied to the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York, and was not accepted. He said that the slot he considered his went to a far less qualified candidate of a different gender and a different persuasion, whose test scores he claimed he knew. And he told the New Yorker in 2017 that he was being sarcastic when he said it. He told the Chicago Tribune in 2018 that he was just repeating something he'd been told while at a New Hampshire Turning Point event featuring Rand Paul in 2019 of October. He claimed that he never said it. In July of 2018, Kirk falsely claimed on social media that Justice Department statistics showed an increase in human trafficking arrests from 1,952 in the year of 2016 to 6,087 in the first half of 2018. He deleted the tweet without an explanation the next day after a fact checker had pointed out that the false 2018 number had originated on a conspiracy site, 8chan. And in December of 2018, he falsely claimed that protesters in the French Yellow Vests movement chanted, "We want Trump." These false claims were later repeated by President Trump himself. Kirk spread falsehoods about voter fraud, about the COVID-19 pandemic. In defending the Trump administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Kirk falsely stated that during the H1N1 swine flu pandemic, it took President Barack Obama millions infected, over 1,000 deaths, to declare a public health emergency. Kirk spread false information and conspiracy theories about COVID-19 on social media platforms such as Twitter in 2020. He sharply criticized Democrats' criticism of Donald Trump's withdrawal of World Health Organization funding and referred to COVID-19 as the China virus, which was retweeted by Trump. Kirk alleged that the World Health Organization covered up information about the COVID-19 pandemic. He was briefly banned from Twitter after falsely claiming that hydroxychloroquine had proved to be 100% effective in treating the virus. He alleged that Gretchen Whitmer, the Democratic governor of Michigan, threatened doctors who tried to use the medication. These falsehoods were retweeted by Rudy Giuliani, whose account was then suspended by Twitter as well. Kirk also described the public health measure of social distancing prohibitions in churches as a democratic plot against Christianity, and made the unfounded assertion that authorities in Wuhan, China, were burning patients. In 2020, Kirk said that he refused to abide by mask requirements, stating that the science around masks is very questionable. And in July of 2021, Kirk promoted misleading claims about the efficacy and safety of COVID-19 vaccines. On Fox News' Tucker Carlson show, Kirk called mandatory requirements for students to take the COVID-19 vaccine medical apartheid. Immediately after Donald Trump lost the 2020 presidential election, Kirk promoted false and disproven claims of fraud in the election. On November 5th of 2020, he was the leader of the Stop the Steal protest at the Maricopa Tabulation Center in Phoenix. Charlie Kirk was considered a big-name social influencer in Rudy Giuliani's communications plan to overturn the 2020 election. On January 5th of 2021, the day before the Washington, D.C. protest that led to the January 6th United States Capitol attack, Kirk wrote on Twitter that Turning Point Action and Students for Trump were sending more than 80 buses of patriots to D.C. to fight for this president. A spokesman for Turning Point said that the groups ended up sending 7 buses, not 80, with 350 students. In the lead up to the storming, Kirk said he was getting 500 emails a minute calling for a civil war. Publix heiress Julie Francelli gave Charlie Kirk's organizations $1.25 million to fund the buses to the January 6th event. Kirk also paid $60,000 for Kimberly Guilfoyle to speak at the Trump rally. And afterward, Kirk said the violent acts at the Capitol were not an insurrection and did not represent mainstream Trump supporters. Appearing before the United States House Select Committee on the January 6th attack, Charlie Kirk pleaded the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. His team, however, provided the committee with 8,000 pages of records in response to its request. In another closed-door meeting of the House January 6th committee, Ali Alexander blamed KIRK and Turning Point USA for financing the travel of demonstrators to stop the steel rally. He's consistently supported the extraction and use of fossil fuels. He was a climate change denialist, claiming that humans have no significant effect on global climate change. And it goes on to say he's an advocate for Trump. He wrote many books. And personal life, of course, he's an evangelical Christian. He married Erica Frantzev, a podcaster and businesswoman who won the Miss Arizona USA pageant competition in 2012. The couple's first child, a daughter, was born in August of 2022. The couple's second child, a son, was born May 2024. The time of his death was publicly announced by Trump in a 4:40 p.m. post on Truth Social and was later confirmed by KIRK's spokesperson. And yet the shooting took place around noon as the event began. Footage recorded at the moment of the shooting shows him recoil while speaking and blood pouring from his neck. University spokesperson later stated that a suspect was in custody, but the person was determined not to be the shooter. Following the shooting, but before KIRK's death, U.S. President Donald Trump called for prayers for KIRK on Truth Social. Other politicians echoed the sentiment while condemning the act of political violence, including Vice President J.D. Vance, California Governor Gavin Newsom, House Speaker Mike Johnson, former Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Barack Obama, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Following KIRK's death, President Trump issued an order for all U.S. flags to be flown at half-staff throughout the United States in his honor until Sunday at 6 p.m. And White House reporter Maggie Haberman reported that the mood at the White House in the wake of the shooting was one of shock and sorrow, and that many in the Trump administration had admired Charlie KIRK. When we come back, we'll give you the Guardian's article on Charlie KIRK's death that shows political violence is now a feature of U.S. life. We'll be back with more of the Positive Vibe and our tribute to Charlie KIRK, who passed away today at the age of 31, right after these very important messages.
Gravity was easy to solve, but could Newton have solved Rubik's Cube? Rubik's Cube, over 3 billion combinations, but just one solution.
Hey, Jerry, what's the story?
You want a party, you want to dance, you want a great night out, come on down to Jerry's Disco.
But Jerry, what's the story?
Unbelievable lights, unbelievable sound, giant dance floor, really big drinks on a dime. Talk about atmosphere, in other words, see for yourself. The party starts every night at 9, and I'll be here waiting for you.
That's the story, Jerry!
That's the story!
In the past, Action Park gave you spectacular rides and fabulous entertainment. But hold on to your bathing suit, because there's more, lots more. Now, Action Park brings to the world the brand new, awesome Roaring Springs. Spread out over 6 acres, Roaring Springs has got it all. It's got cliff diving, air slides, caves, rapids, waterfalls. It's even got an underwater river. But most of all, it's got action.
We've got great reasons for coming to town. Food Town.
Great produce.
Great meats.
Great dairy. Great deli treats.
With great specials too.
this week, Foodtown Soda, all flavors, regular and diet, 59 cents. And Morton's Fried Chicken, 2-pound package, only $1.99.
Great reasons for coming to town. Foodtown.
The shooting of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk at an event in Utah marks another example of ongoing political violence in the U.S., now a feature of American life, as they say. So let's pull up the article from The Guardian. This is going on right now. Donald Trump confirmed on Wednesday that Kirk died, saying, "No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie." Kirk, on campus at Utah Valley University as part of a speaking tour called American Comeback, was asked a question by an audience member about mass shootings, including how many involved trans shooters when he was shot in the neck. The political leanings and goals of the shooter, who is not in custody, are not yet known. Kirk is one of the highest profile allies of the U.S. president and his organization. Turning Point USA has helped turn out voters for Trump and other Republicans. He is known for his inflammatory, often racist and xenophobic commentary, particularly on college campuses. The shooting comes as a series of incidents over the past year show an increased level of violence related to political disagreements or intended to achieve political goals. Trump faced 2 assassination attempts in 2024, as you know. Last December, a shooter targeted and killed the head of United Healthcare. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's home was burned in an arson attack in April. Judges and elected officials report increased threats and harassment. Several instances of violence have stemmed from opposition to the Gaza war. In June, a man dressed as a police officer shot and killed a Democratic Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband, and wounded another state lawmaker and his wife. A gunman attacked the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention headquarters in August, killing a police officer. Surveys have shown increased acceptance of using violence for political aims across party spectrums. Robert Papp, who directs the Chicago Project on Security and Threats, wrote in the New York Times that a survey his team conducted in May was its most worrisome yet. About 40% of Democrats supported the use of force to remove Mr. Trump from the presidency, and about 25% of Republicans supported the use of the military to stop protests against Mr. Trump's agenda. These numbers more than doubled since last fall when we asked similar questions, he wrote. We were becoming more and more of a powder keg. Papp told The Guardian on Wednesday. Papp calls the current moment an era of violent populism. Condemnations of the shooting came from across the political spectrum. Papp has long argued that politicians need to speak out against violence, especially if it's aligned with their own team. These condemnations are extremely helpful here as we go forward. It won't stop everything, but it helps to stop the snowball, he said. Hassan Piker, the progressive streamer who was scheduled to debate Kirk later this month, said on his live stream on Wednesday that it was a terrifying incident. The reverberation of people seeking out vengeance in the aftermath of this violent, abhorrent incident is going to be generally worrisome, he said. The aftermath of Kirk's death could include increased violence and retaliation, with some right-wing figures already calling for retribution. Libs of TikTok, the right-wing X account, put simply, this is war. It may be war, folks, but right now we should concentrate on our thoughts and prayers to the Kirk family, because right now, 2 little ones do not have their father. His wife is trying her best to console their little ones, because they just probably don't understand what's going on right now. The positive vibe here, this show is supposed to be positive things going on. And as I said before, any show that I have done over the course of 15 years of podcasting has tried to have a positive outcome in there. This violent attack on an individual, Charles KIRK, who only wanted to debate the very issues that we want to be debated, because the politicians themselves, especially on the Democratic side, and you know who you are, you're too much of a coward to stand up against the violence. And it sickens me every day to hear Democratic mayors, Democratic governors from those stupid blue states talking their smack against American people and those who fight for freedom and for peace and to stop the madness and the chaos and stop the evil. President Trump is doing everything in his power within the confines of the Constitution to bring back peace in our country and clean up the mess that the Democratic Party has basically started, not just 4 years ago when Biden was in the office, but even when Barack Obama was in office, when President Clinton was in office, all the way going back. If you accept this kind of behavior, this violent kind of behavior, folks, and you're in my group, I ask you to leave now. I ask you to unsub from me. I ask you to unfriend me. You know why? Because this is bullshit. This is inexcusable. This is unacceptable. You know it. I know it. We were not brought up to be violent people. We were not brought up to use hatred against people. If we didn't have anything nice to say to anybody, we didn't say it. We kept our mouths shut. But there are people trying to keep our mouths shut by, silencing us. This is how they're doing it. And you have to understand what the stakes are. High stakes. We live every day of our lives trying to do the right thing, trying to become good citizens, trying to set an example to our children. And if you're a parent that accepts the fact that Charlie KIRK died today and you're happy about that, shame on you. Shame on you, and don't even bother. Don't even bother. To those people who are making those TikToks, I will block your ass. To those who are making YouTube videos about how bad of a person Charlie KIRK was, I'll block your ass all over the place. To the trolls out there, I'll block your ass all over the place. You have no business. And don't give me this first freedom of speech bullshit either, okay? Don't even play the race card. With a girl who got killed yesterday by the black man on the train. And once again, what happens? Play the race card. Feel bad for the criminal. You all would be ashamed of yourselves for accepting this kind of behavior from individuals who do violence. It's one thing to debate the issues. It's one thing to have a difference of opinion, which is totally fine, folks. But it's another when you start threatening people with violence because they don't think like you. And I said this how many times? I don't want people to, it doesn't matter whether you disagree with me or not. I have my ways and values and morals. You have your way of thinking. But I'll tell you what, you are not going to convince me to think like you. You're not going to convince me to act like you. I will stand up for what I believe is the right and the might of God himself. And I've said this how many times, and I have been condemned by it. I have been thrown to the wolves by it. And all of my videos out there against the various people who hated my guts from back in 2012, you know who you are. I will not stop with the positive information or for that matter, any kind of information, because we as Americans are free to do this. This is our right to do this, to present the facts, whether they come from the liberal side or the conservative side, whether they come from the Democratic side or the Republican side. You have a choice as to what facts you think are the right facts. And we should be writing articles that go down the middle, not leaning to one side or to the other side. It goes both ways. I said this before. There are a lot of things I don't agree with the way Trump does things, but I voted for him because I know what kind of a man he is. He's a businessman. And if you don't like him, then apparently you're going to get condemned for it. You're going to get condemned for it because there are people out there that love him, not just because he's the president of the United States, but they love him because he's a man who sets an example, puts his mind to something, and he does it. He does it until it's completed. And he has to go out there every day and clean up the mess that the Biden administration made over the last 4 years. It's going to take time, folks, to get this mess cleaned up, okay? Rome was not built in a day, as you know. You can't snap a finger and make everything just disappear just like that. If you're losing your patience because of the fact that things are not moving the way you want them to, you got to take a step back somehow. You have to take a step back. That's the problem that a lot of people just don't understand. And you start blaming everybody. Blame yourself for once. If you don't like President Trump, if you didn't like Charlie Kirk, if you didn't like the people on Fox News, if you don't like people in general and you hate this country, get out. Look, Rosie O'Donnell did it, and more power to her. But what is she doing in Ireland? She's shooting her mouth off. Same thing with the bitches on The View. Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg. Once again, thinks she's got the answer to everything. And I said this before. I don't watch shows like that where they have pure hatred for American and American people. And tomorrow is September 11th, folks. It's Patriot Day tomorrow. But right now, at this moment, this is a sad time in our American history. And we're going to look back on September 10th and realize we lost a true activist who really spoke the truth and tried to make us realize that there are two sides to every issue. There are debatable things we can come to the table with, put our ideas on the table, and maybe come to a compromise. Just maybe come to a compromise and not resort to violence and killing. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a physical thing. But I do know that, like I said before, if you're happy that Charlie Kirk is dead, that's because you're a coward and you're not a true patriot to this country that you were probably born and raised in and brought up to be a good American citizen. And you should take a look at yourself in the mirror and start realizing that if you don't change you can only change you. I can't change you. President Trump can't change you. But President Trump is going to do a job that he was sworn in and voted by the American people. The real American people who were born and raised in this country, and the legal immigrants, the ones who did it by the book, folks. Because if we don't get this problem taken care of, sooner or later, there is going to be some kind of thing going on. Now, I'm not one to predict, but I see what's going on out there. Where I live in the state of Florida is very good. You know, people go about their business and they do their thing, and they don't resort to violence to get their way. They're hardworking people here in the state of Florida, and we have a great Governor DeSantis, and if you don't like Governor DeSantis, well then, stay the hell out of Florida. Don't come to our great state if you don't like the way things are being run around here. We are a red state. We're going to be a red state. And if you don't like it, you know where you can go. But for those who want a better life, come on over. You Californians out there who are being mistreated by that scumbag. Yes, that scumbag Newsom. Come on over. You don't like it. Hey, we moved down from New York 30 years ago. We've been here 30 years. It's been a great life. It has its ups and downs, but what life doesn't have ups and downs, folks? That's what we got to, life will throw challenges at us all the time. And we have to continually fight every day. Not fight violence. Well, we have to fight violence, but we don't have to physically fight it. We just have to mentally stand up for what we believe and continue to believe that God, our Almighty Father, is with us. And I don't want to sound like a preacher on Sunday, but if you don't have God in your life, you have no life. And if you do have God in your life, but yet you're being instilled with messages of hate against the religious side of it, find some place where the message is clear without the violence, without the threat of it, and without the negative repercussions. That's why we live in the United States, folks. Choices. The freedom to make choices that can enrich and better our lives. You know that. So let's start doing it. If we haven't started already, it ain't too late. It's never too late to change what we do. And that's why I came up with the positive vibe to start changing. I know somebody's going to say, you've always been negative, Jason. You've always ridiculed people for... Hey, whatever happened in the past, you can't change it. If you're expecting an apology out of me, you're not going to get it either. And I've even made that message clear. Not to go off topic. This is not about, trying to convince those who hate Donald Trump and convince those who are happy that Charlie Kirk is passed on after getting shot. This is not an attack against you, but sure as hell, why in the heck would you accept this kind of violent behavior? Why? And if you can't give me a valid reason as to why your thinking is so clouded, then maybe you need to seek higher things. Because I know why you accept this kind of behavior. I know, because you don't like our country. You don't like the way it's being run by the president, the current president. You don't like Donald Trump. Okay. But I'll tell you, I don't have to be a part of you, and I don't care anything about what you got to say. I probably won't even respect you because I walk away because I don't want toxic crap in my life. And I choose to have that. I choose to have a non-toxic life full of positive things. There you go. We'll be right back with a commentary that Charlie Kirk did back in 2023. We'll get that article out to you, wrap up this whole show, and move on to episode number 3, where we'll talk about on Friday, Patriot Day, September 11th, all of that to celebrate the 24th anniversary, which is tomorrow. More of the positive vibe when we come back right after this.
The best-selling #1 trash bags in America are Glad trash bags. Unfortunately, some people are still experimenting with bargain bags. Look how a Glad regular trash bag resists punctures past the average point where most bargain bags fail. Glad trash bags are strong, puncture-resistant, and haul trash for more people than any bag sold. Yes, we're #1. We're tough, and we're Glad.
Hey, Fred, give me a pizza with extra cheese.
Extra cheese.
And hold the tomato sauce.
Hold the tomato sauce.
And hold the crust.
Hold the crust. Hey, Jimmy, give me a cheese with nothing. Nothing?
Now you can have the best part of the pizza without the pizza. Polly-O string cheese, all natural, individually wrapped cheese snacks.
Is this what you want?
Bellissimo. Magnifique.
C'est bon.
Try Polly-O string cheese. It's the best part of the pizza.
wildest cats on Broadway. New York is all lit up for your vacation. Come, have a dazzling time. Call toll-free 800-554-3600 for package tours and information, or see your travel agent. I love New York at night. You never know who might appear.
I love New York.
These newfangled potato chips are made of dehydrated potatoes, vegetable shortening, mono and diglycerides, salt, with ascorbic acid and BHA added to preserve freshness.
Wise potato chips are made from potatoes, vegetable oil, salt.
The newfangled potato chip or Wise old-fangled potato chips? You decide. Wise potato chips, naturally delicious.
Welcome back to the Positive Vibe, and now we're going to go ahead and look at a commentary that Charlie Kirk presented back in 2023. This is from the article from DavisVanguard.org. Let's pull up this article here, written by David Greenwald on March 16th, 2023. As an old school free speech advocate, I have mixed views on the Charlie Kirk event. And over the years, my view has been, let these guys come on campus and ignore them. Or if you absolutely can't ignore them, at least do what the Phoenix Coalition did and have a counter event which debunks their hateful message. But as we have now seen, ignoring these guys doesn't necessarily make them go away. That's one of the messages from January 6th. The problem with protests and trying to shut down events, aside from the free speech aspect, is you inadvertently amplify the message or their message. That's a bit of what SAC-B columnist Hannah Holzer did this week with her column. She amplified his message, got some of it wrong, fanned the flames a bit, and the B embarrassingly had to issue a correction after Kirk threatened to sue. UC Davis was in a tough position after becoming the center for national attention when the pepper spray incident went viral in 2011. They have taken a de-escalation approach of not using uniformed police to keep the peace at protests. That approach backfired in 2017 when Milo Yiannopoulos had his event canceled due to violence potential. 6 months ago in October, the same thing happened at a Turning Point USA event. It is interesting, in 2017, my reaction to the Milo event at the dawn of the Trump era was somewhat different than now. Back then, it seemed to me that the views of Milo were best being brought forward, airing them in the light, where they could be ridiculed and debunked. 6 years later, after watching the toll the Trump era took on the country, I'm not sure I'm so sanguine about such an approach. What seemed so ludicrous in 2017 now seems very different, as we saw what happened when right-wing forces were empowered and extremists were able to gain a foothold in our mainstream political discourse. UC Davis and its chancellor took a two-pronged approach in response to Kirk's appearance. On the one hand, they strongly defended the right to speak. On the other, Chancellor May earned the enmity of Kirk and his supporters by attacking the message. From the university's perspective, the point of emphasis was free speech. The university said, as a public university, we must uphold the right to free speech as guaranteed under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, even when that speech may be hateful, offensive, or abusive. They added, our campus's principles of community affirm the right of freedom of expression within our community, including the right to protest speech we oppose. UC Davis is committed to supporting a campus environment that is inclusive and respectful to people of all backgrounds and dedicated to the pursuit of deeper understanding through the free and civil exchange of ideas. May pulled no punches in calling Kirk a well-documented proponent of misinformation and hate and has advocated for violence against transgender individuals. He took a stand against this hateful and divisive messaging. He notes that Turning Point USA, as a registered student organization, has the right to reserve university facilities and invite speakers of their choice, and that the university faces a heavy burden under UC policy to deny such requests over concerns of violence. While the policy does allow for a denial of a request if the speaker presents a clear and present danger to the campus carries a heavy burden for such a denial under these circumstances. He said, in short, while I abhor the inflammatory speech of the speaker, UC policy permits the student organization to invite the speaker. And so the show went on, but at what cost? The event was only made possible barely by the university going back on their long-standing policy of not deploying police at demonstrations. Police showed up in riot gear. That was just enough to keep the peace, barely. There were some minor incidents, a few arrests, but the event went on. In short, the event could not have happened without heavy police presence. May argued that the standard for shutting down the event was extremely high, a clear and present danger. But doesn't the fact that they had to send armed police in riot gear indicate that there was a clear and present danger of real violence? The right wing will argue that it was just Antifa that showed up to cause trouble at this event. But that ignores two critical things. First, that the reason it was only Antifa is because the show was backed up by the show of force from the police. And second, without that show of force, the Proud Boys would have shown up just like they did back in October. At this time, things would have gotten out of hand. In short, Charlie KIRK got to have his cake and eat it too. He said the university's fear to be able to speak. He got to appear to play the high ground, and he got to attack the university as well and play victim. In short, he has weaponized free speech. Then again, two can play at that game. The university used free speech as a crutch or an excuse to allow the event to go forward. In her column, Holzer made an interesting point. Ironically, despite shilling for unequivocal freedom of speech, UC Davis's communications team denied not only my interview request with an administrative representative, but also my request to merely submit questions about the event. Really, UCD? I had a similar experience after the October event. UC Davis simply refused to comment other than their canned statement. I still think the counter-protests and media attention here is counterproductive, I say with irony. 500 attendees is nothing to sneeze at, but that was no doubt amplified by the promised potential of violence and conflict, and certainly the media coverage has amplified the message beyond anything the event would have drawn beyond it. Would it have been better for the university to just cancel the event, cite the risk for violence? What happened both in 2017 and last October to justify that fear? They would have been attacked by conservatives for sure, but they were attacked anyway, and it's not clear what is the true downside of being attacked. As Holzer pointed out in her column, my overwhelming inclination is to demand UC Davis get ahead of the situation and uninvite KIRK, but there's no legal basis for doing so. She also probably rightly points out, even calling for legal reform to curb the trend of fascists speaking on campus opens the door to First Amendment restrictions that could have huge unintended ramifications. She quotes David Loy for the First Amendment Coalition. The public university, as an arm of the government, is not allowed to discriminate based on viewpoints, and added, you can't prevent people from speaking just because some other third party might protest. The problem now is how to deal with those who, like KIRK, have learned how to weaponize free speech to their own advantage. Watching January 6th makes me much more leery about believing that somehow ignoring these problems will make them go away, but counter-protesting just amplifies the message. I concede. I don't have a great answer on this one at this point. Wow. All right. So that's his commentary. That was from David Greenwald from the Vanguard website on a commentary about Charlie Kirk. And we'll leave it at that. Again, like I said before, folks, we'll wrap up this program in an hour, which we did. And we will move on to other things on Friday, including September 11th. All the memories and the memorials going on tomorrow. It's Patriot Day tomorrow, and we will celebrate. So wear your red, white, and blue wherever you are and show your true patriotism in this country that we live in. And to the Kirk family, please accept our prayers and condolences for the passing of Charlie Kirk. We will miss you, and we will miss your words. And we know that what you have said in your debates, in your rallies, and your conventions has made an impact somewhere. But it should not have taken your life as it did today. I'm Jason DeCanio. Thank you for this edition of The Positive Vibe, this special edition of The Positive Vibe. We will see you on Friday, back to our regularly scheduled program with other positive news, articles, and a look at some of the things that are going on, not just for Patriot Day, but all throughout the month of September. Till then, we'll see you on Friday. Have a great night. Bye for now.